Veritas. SCP Files. Episode 9. Unknown.
Good lad.
Okay, incident report number... which SCP was involved?
It's just been designated 650. But there was another one. I didn't really see.
Neither of us saw it. SCP-650, an unknown entity, likely another SCP as well.
I see. How do I number that? Incident report 650-unknown, I suppose. First known incident involving SCP-650 and an unknown potentially anomalous entity. Object class?
Euclid, probably, and unknown.
Risk assessment level?
Unknown and unknown. Requires further assessment.
Reported by Niall... what's your full name?
Niall Connor, Security Level 4 Officer, sexiest hero in the Foundation, and the Ethical Containment Protocol Coordinator, primarily for Keter class anomalies. The title shortens to Epic, you know.
Yeah, nobody's calling you that. Also reporting is Meriweather Parker, Security Level 3 Officer and the Ethical Standard Specialist for new SCPs.
S for short.
Sure.
Report made April 10th, 2024.
Go ahead now.
Where to begin? There's a certain feeling in the air among containment specialists whenever new SCPs are discovered. Have you noticed that, Meriweather?
Oh, yes.
This thick cloud of anxiety that electrifies the hallways and offices, making it impossible to sit still. There's palpable uncertainty. What can the anomaly do? Is it harmless? Or is it the most dangerous thing we've ever seen? Is everyone here making it back alive? Meriweather and I were not on the initial containment teams who retrieve objects. But often the data gathered by those teams is simply not enough, and the care is still needed once they're back. Nothing is safely contained for at least months after its discovery. We got the call about the warehouse about a week ago. A completely anomalous report that something was hiding in the warehouse just down the road from this facility. You must know it. It's the one that's all boarded up. Looks extremely haunted. You can't miss it after you turn down our road, about a mile before the security fences for this facility.
Oh, I don't, I live here, actually, in one of the on-site bunks. I don't leave the facility.
Really? Huh. Well, it was such a brief call, more a warning than a cry for help. And so close by, we knew something was up. The containment teams responded instantly. And of course, as he's responsible for the ethical containment of new SCPs, Meriweather was on standby, manning the radio the whole time. I wasn't really involved, as I'm not part of initial containment, but I knew something was up. Everyone running every which way, and that awful current of anxiety coursing through all of them.
The response teams didn't know what to expect. Usually we get a little information, but this time there was none at all. The warehouse is fairly small, but it's completely boarded up. Every window covered in wooden panels. There was no way to see what would be inside, so they went in with extreme caution, in teams of 3, geared to the teeth. It seemed too good to be true. The light still worked, a small miracle given the dilapidation of the building, and it didn't take the teams long to fully check all parts of the building. It seemed to have been used for storing spools of electrical cable. Several filled spools remained, but far more of them were completely empty. The wooden frames settled on their sides to prevent them from rolling. They were piled neatly in tall stacks that obscured the view, forming a wooden, splintery maze. Over the radio, I could hear how irritated the team was. There were so many places to hide. But these are professionals, of course, and it didn't take them long to clear the building. They found just one curious item. A black humanoid statue about 5.5 feet tall. It is featureless, its face completely smooth, and its limbs taper off into rounded ends. Well, of course, we weren't sure if it was anomalous or not, but it was the only interesting thing there. They followed standard procedure, had 3 agents keep their eyes locked on it while we all discussed what should come next.
It was a bad call to go out there.
I know, but it seemed safe.
You have to know better than that by now. What if it had been a Keter?
You're right. I suppose I'll probably get disciplined for that choice.
No, you've a white knight protecting you. I won't let that happen.
I think our higher-ups will still override you. Don't stick your neck out for me, Nye. I made a bad call. I accept the responsibility. When the statue hadn't done a single thing for a full day, I thought, well, perhaps it was safe. I mean, we really knew nothing about it, except that if it was anomalous, having all eyes on it seemed to work to keep it contained. So I thought it would be safe enough to go and help with retrieval. I'm not about to make others do all the dangerous work. I'm no better than anyone else there, no more deserving of safety. I drove one of the armored vans out, all set to load it up and bring it back to begin on-site testing. When I arrived, I parked out front and joined the 3 agents who were there watching the thing. It wasn't hard to tell that it was an SCP. There was something unnatural about it. It shouldn't have been able to stand on those smooth, rounded legs. But there it stood anyways, in the back of the warehouse, amidst the spools, arms reaching upwards, head tilted as if peering curiously into the sky. We were just starting to talk about how best to load it into the van when the lights suddenly blinked out. Total darkness, and I could hear...
Let me take over, Mary. I'm very glad I'm a curious guy. And I've always liked to know just what the heck is going on with the new anomalies. I had the radio on me to monitor chatter about this SCP, and when I heard you say you were en route, I couldn't just stand around hoping you'd be back. In our line of work, you never know what might happen, and if you might need a handsome Irishman to come to the rescue. So I legged it to the nearest locker room and geared myself up before heading out. I've been through the unknown song and dance so many times. You never go out without a flashlight, a handful of flares, a two-way radio, a first aid kit, a utility knife.
He gets the idea.
Yes, well, you should too. You didn't have any of this. May I continue? You really ought to know these things. I may have been the hero today, but what if I'm not around next time,
I didn't think I needed anything. We were right outside the fence, and those agents had all the gear I thought we'd need. The gloves, extra batteries, night vision goggles, and a camera that can both record and allows for thermal imaging. Standard stuff. I knew it was all there.
So you do know it. Sorry to doubt, of course you do. I sometimes forget how long you worked in the security department. Well, regardless, I'm glad I brought the gear too. Once I finished packing, I hopped into my car and drove to the warehouse. I remember seeing the armored car parked out front, but as I pulled up, another vehicle was just leaving, tearing out of there like a bat out of hell. It was a meticulously cared-for black van. I only saw it for a moment. It was going so fast, but I swear, painted on the side was a symbol I know very, very well. But I suppose that's a different report to a different person.
You didn't tell me this. What symbol?
It's not important right now. What matters is that I was just in time. It must have been right after the lights went out. The door was still wide open, though the light that filtered through it barely seemed to touch the pitch blackness inside. The darkness seemed to swallow the rays. The shadows were so much deeper than they should have been. The screams that came from that doorway.
Don't describe them. Please. I can still hear them. When the darkness first fell, we all knew something was coming for us. We really thought it was the statue. For a moment, we all stood frozen in surprise, and the officer to my left switched on his flashlight. It was on for barely half a second, just the slightest flicker, before we heard something move in the dark. It was fast, extremely fast, and it didn't like this light turning on. It went for him instantly. I heard something like a wet sack of meat being pulled along the ground. And that's when the screams began. And this awful second sound, a whoosh of something heavy, followed by the crack of bone. I felt the blood splatter onto me, soaking my face and uncovered arms in a fine mist. The other agents ran, footsteps ringing out loudly on the concrete floors, and the thing in the darkness heard them. It was off after them without pausing a moment, that same impossibly fast dragging that became screaming and bludgeoning. I didn't know what to do. After how it reacted to people running, I knew that wasn't an option. So I just stood there and listened to it tearing them apart.
I'm not gonna lie, the thought of stepping into unnatural darkness containing those sounds. But I wasn't about to just leave you in there. You see, this is exactly why you bring flares.
And your shouted taunts?
Better it come for me than for you. Besides, what's a SCP supposed to do against all this rugged charm?
I do deeply appreciate your help. But I wish you wouldn't put yourself in harm's way like that. I put myself in danger. You needn't be in danger too.
It worked though, didn't it? I was at least prepared, fully expecting something awful to come leaping at me the second the first flare hit the ground. I suppose I should be grateful. But I really don't like that thing disappeared in the light. So quickly, I couldn't even get a look at it. The scene it left behind, though, once I entered the maze, crushed and torn bodies, the blood spattered against every spool, covering every inch of the floor and the walls like someone had crushed a piñata full of...
Stop. Please. I knew those officers.
Sorry.
I'm very glad that both of you are unharmed. So, it was the statue?
Well, no, actually. Whatever killed my friends vanished in the light. But that mischievous statue...
Mischievous is quite a word for it. I'd call it downright terrifying. It almost gave me a heart attack. To see that creature vanish into thin air, and then whirl around to make sure it isn't behind me, only to find that statue an inch away from my face, arms raised as though to strangle me.
You're fine. It's fine. We were able to contain it at least. It can't hurt anyone now. I don't think it actually means to harm us, though. Else it would have when the lights were out. It had ample opportunity.
So, it wasn't the statue that killed those men?
I don't think so, no. But I suppose it's possible. We're investigating.
Given that van I saw, though, I think the statue may have been nothing more than bait in a larger plot. But that's just wild speculation at this point. Look, what matters is that we're alive, we're unharmed, and you, Mary, are taking a few weeks off.
Yes, I think that's for the best.
What about you, Niall?
I have some business to attend to. No rest for the wicked, as they say. Besides, I was not the one who was in the middle of it all.
I suppose I should go see Seth now.
Seth?
Site 2024's Chief Security Officer. But don't worry about that, Mary. I'll handle it.
Better that you do. I can't stand that man. I'm liable to tear into him for not placing the appropriate security measures when the warehouse was first secured.
Let me walk you to your car.
Thanks for taking our report, Scott.
Of course. Please, rest up. What the heck do I do with this report?
Vault Veritas SCP Files is a podcast inspired by the SCP Foundation. Unknown is based on SCP-650 by Dr. Towson and SCP-575 by Dr. Gears from the SCP Wiki located at scpwiki.com/SCP-650 and scpwiki.com/SCP-575. It is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.0 unported license. This episode featured Cody W. as Meriweather Parker, D.R. Thompson as Niall Connors, and Justin Gilner as Scott Anderson. It was written and edited by Leola Angel. We welcome comments. Please email us at vaultveritas@gmail.com. Join our Discord channel using the link in the episode description. Or if you'd like, visit our Patreon listed as Vault Veritas SCP Files. Thanks for listening.